We're now behind the scenes at Konami, listening to Def Jam rap star that's going outside. You probably can't hear it through this mic, but the room is shaking, to say the least. And we're here with Dave Cox, producer for Castlevania, Lord of Shadows. Hi. Just looking at the game, or stuff that you've been releasing from the game. Now, looking back at Castlevania, which is quite a dark, gothic series in general. A lot of the stuff that's been coming out lately has looked a bit like pretty much lighter fantasy, like almost Lord of the Rings ish. How does that fit into the general Castlevania tone?
I think some of the enemies that we've released have been new enemies, and we've taken them from mythology. But in previous Castlevania games, enemies were always taken from mythology. So I think we're not doing anything new here. Of course, at the same time, we're still keeping the regular enemies that people expect from Castlevania games. So we've got animated armors, we've got werewolves, we've got lycans, we've got zombies, we've got mandragora. We've got vampires, we've got all the things that everybody's expecting from a Castlevania game. We've introduced some new elements because in this particular title we're showing the journey of Gabriel to the castle. And in order to do that we need to show lots of landscapes. And we felt that these kind of enemies would fit in well to the storyline that we wanted to tell for Castlevania.
And speaking of storyline, which is very, very important to the Castlevania fans with the Belmont family, what can you tell us about the storyline in Castlevania Lord of Shadow?
Well, Castlevania Lords of Shadow really is telling the story of the origins of the Belmonts. But of course we're doing it in a way that it doesn't tie into the previous Castlevania games. So this is really a reboot of the series, a reinvention of the series. It's similar to what J.J. Abrams did with Star Trek, in that we're not giving the whole kind of 25-year history of Castlevania. Nobody has to learn that from the get-go. Obviously the fans know it, but the general public and the new players we want to bring to the series don't know it. So we felt we needed to start afresh. So we started different, in kind of like Marvel Ultimates, in that this is kind of like a different version of Castlevania. But at the same time, we have familiar characters and familiar things from Castlevania universe that the fans will recognise and feel comfortable with. But we're doing it in a slightly different way, a slight twist to it. So I think there's lots of nods and winks, but people will be surprised how close to Castlevania this actually really is.
And don't take this the wrong way, but likening it to especially to Abrams' version of Star Trek, that's pretty tall words. And also with Castlevania, they're not Trekkies, but Star Trek has a hardcore fan base, and the Castlevania games, they are pretty hardcore, and they are pretty hardcore fans, so they have certain expectations. Do you have anything you can say as a Western developer that calm those fears?
I think so. I think really the original Castlevania games were all about lone warrior battling supernatural creatures with a whip. That's something that we kind of boiled down. That's the essence of what the original game, the original 8-bit game, that's what it was about. And that's what we want to do with this game. We want to start again. We want to start again. And the only way to start again is to look at the original and say, what's the fundamental thing about this game that made this game? And that's what we've done. And then from there we've built upon it. We've built things that are familiar, but at the same time we've taken it in new directions so that it feels fresh, it feels exciting, it feels dark, it feels gritty, but it's got the familiarity for the fans because we want to take them with us, of course. But at the same time, we're not pandering to the fans because we want to bring in new players and we want Castlevania to be big again. And there are so many players out there who I know who've never played a Castlevania game before. A generation after me. I grew up with Castlevania, but a lot of people out there don't play it, they don't know it. And we want to get those players involved and get them back into Castlevania again. And in order to do that, we felt, we need to do things differently, do things that haven't been done before.
Yeah, speaking of mentioning the board at Konami and mentioning Hideo Kojima, not everybody might know this, but Kojima is, in a sense, involved in the development of Castlevania. How's that relationship between him and the development team looking?
It's been a very nice experience actually because Kojima-san has kind of been watching the game from afar, from a distance, like a mentor to us really. This is my first kind of big project that I've handled myself, and I think he kind of came on board to, offer his assistance and his advice. And he's been, giving us reports, giving us feedback on the game and pointing us in directions which we hadn't considered, which I think is really nice. But at the same time, he said to me, you're the producer, Dave, this is your project, it's your baby. You need to, it's your call at the end of the day, what you want to do. But generally, when you have somebody like Mr. Kojima giving you advice, you'd be kind of foolish not to listen.
So how far into production?
We're pretty far now. We're coming to the end stage, the end game of the development. We're going to release the game in the fall of 2010, so we've probably got another couple of months of development, and then we're done.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks very much.